All right, welcome everybody to our 21 Laws of Leadership book study, which I'm super pumped about. This is, oh goodness, the third or fourth time that we've gone through this as a team. So you are in for a treat because this is a classic. It is foundational. It is an amazing study that hopefully will spark continued learning and growth and just awareness about leadership as you guys continue on your journey through life. I mean, this is life stuff. This is skills that you will apply to everything. Marriage, raising kids, ministry, relationships, so much good stuff here. So I was just going to share and kick off the call with something that I wrote down. I actually have it in front of my desk, and it is my purpose that I have written down. Specifically in regards to Plex, this is not like necessarily my life purpose, although it's connected to that. So my purpose is to use curiosity and joy to inspire others to maximize their God-given potential, using it to best serve God and others. And so I am excited to lead this book study, not because I have it all figured out, but because I want to learn with you guys and continue to grow and learn together. So I view this as leading and facilitating this study, where we're going to basically delve in for the next 3 months and learn, just basically define leadership, because it's almost like a diamond that has so many different facets to it. And you turn it one way and it's, you hone in on one aspect of leadership, but then there's a whole bunch of other angles and things to learn about with it. So we're going to be defining leadership. We're going to be learning more about it. And so just as way of encouragement to set aside this time to invest in yourself. I know it doesn't always work to pop on live with the camera on, but there's so much value in doing that. I've had some conversations with people that just can't be on live at this time. And so I know some of you are going to be catching the recording, and that is a-okay. Sometimes it's better to show up imperfectly in a crazy season and glean what you can than not do it at all. So I know that there'll be benefits and blessings however you are able to show up. But I want to give you a little encouragement to also small group discuss this, whether it's, like one-on-one with your sponsor or with some of your downline, whatever that looks like. It'll increase the learning process as you guys continue to discuss and learn and kind of hash out some things in terms of leadership and what you're learning. I would also say there is an aspect to growing in leadership that is attractive, and also it like attracts people to us when they see us in growth learning mode. And so I just encourage and inspire you guys all to make some posts about what you're learning through the study on social media. It could look like going live in your stories. It could look like going live on your wall. I think that one of the ways to increase our influence over people is the willingness to show up imperfectly and share what we're learning. When people see you learning from a book and just saying, hey, this is what I'm learning, I'm going to share with you guys, that is attractive. You never know who it's going to attract. But I would say we're all looking for leaders to join our teams. And so us being vocal and open about that is only going to help us attract those people, right? So encouraging little mention right there. We're looking for those growth-minded people. And I think through this study, we will become aware of strengths that we have in terms of leadership, and also possibly some weakness or some gaps that we have. If you did the leadership assessment, I actually meant to, I do have it here. I meant to grab my workbook. If you did the leadership assessment, pop in the chat that you did it. It's the leadership evaluation. I have it in my workbook, but apparently it's also in Appendix A in the back of the actual book. And if you are game for sharing what your strengths, what the laws that you're strongest at, pop them in the chat. If you want to pop what you're weakest at, go ahead and pop those in the chat. Those of you who have done this study before, I actually have like my evaluations the first couple times that I did it. I think that we've done it twice as a team, and maybe once Jessica Heffley led it. and I was part of that. So I think this is number 4 time of going through this. And so it is, I'm learning and continuing to glean stuff as I go. So I'm excited for all of us to do that together. And then at the end of each chapter, there is like some little questions and some evaluations. So I would challenge you all to ask people to rate you in your leadership, like on the end of chapter 1, and then at the end of chapter 2, there are some other things. So it will bring awareness to you. And once there is awareness, then we can make some pivots if we need to, right? I also think it just gets our antenna going for people in our life that possess leadership qualities that we either want to learn from or that we want on our team doing this with us. So another thing I'll say is I think that at every rank, there's leadership skills to be learned. Sometimes you can learn them really quickly and move on. Other times it may be that whole law of the lid thing where you feel like, I'm at this same rank for a year or 2 or however long, right? Well, it may be because there's a lid of some sort that needs to be lifted. And so I think this study is going to be good because it's going to bring awareness to maybe some areas that we need to work on. So I have a question for you guys. I actually posed this to one of the girls on my team. But I think it's good for all of us to ask ourselves. And it's maybe an uncomfortable question, but I'm inspired by Brittany Howard. She is a sweet friend of mine. And also I just feel like she sharpens my iron in a lot of ways because she's not afraid to ask tough questions. And not just in group settings, but even like in a one-on-one conversation, or she'll just kind of throw it in my face and be like, well, why? And ask me like good questions. And I'm like, oh, that's good. And so my question for you guys, and you can write it down and think through it. You don't necessarily, maybe won't have an answer right off the bat, or you may have some things that come to mind as soon as I ask it. So I want you to jot those things down. My question is, why are you not at your next rank? What would be the reasons? Do you have some awareness about why you're not at your next rank? If you're new and you're listening to this call, so we did not make this call rank specific. And in the past, we've always required that people were either gold or above. And I feel like we've maybe done some like where you had to be ruby or above. And so this is a study that's going to stretch you, right? That's going to stretch us. And also there's a lot of different experiences and ranks represented on the call. Okay. So if you're very, very brandy new, there may be no other reason why you're not at your next rank, except for the fact that you just need more time. Like you went silver or senior silver last month. And so this month you're going to go gold. It's just a matter of time. And it's one of those yet factors. I would say for everybody on the call, your next rank is yet, right? That's one of the best words ever, is yet, because it's going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet. Okay. I wrote down a couple of things. You may be on a hamster wheel going so fast that you don't stop to think about what you're doing and why. And maybe you're doing all the things, okay, that you know to do, but there's some sort of gap. Or maybe we're doing all the things, but maybe not enough of the right things or enough of the top priority things. There's a lot of things that we can be busy with in Plexus, but not actually moving the needle forward. And it's interesting. Sometimes I've chatted with people and they're like, yeah, I worked Plexus for like 6 hours today. And I was like, oh, what did you do? And they're like, well, I was on like 6 different calls. I was like, yeah, that's not working your business. That's thinking about Plexus and that's getting training. That's not actually working your business, So another thing is another lid, as we're talking about this first chapter about the law of the lid. The reason why you may not be at your next rank is because of a fixed mindset. And you can think about this in terms of your own rank. You can also think about people within your teams. If you have teams within teams, right? About fixed mindset. So this is completely linked to the thoughts that you're thinking, which, that whole Emily Gibson model is the thoughts that we think create so much for us. And so becoming aware of those things, because it's always a thought before it's ever an action, right? Before we take action. Another thing that I jotted down is inconsistency. Sometimes we're so inconsistent, it just kills our business because we're not consistent. Another thing I wrote down is a lack of clarity or vision. And that's something that I've seen with some people, is that it's not that they don't know what to do, it's just that they don't have real clear vision on what they want. And so then that impacts their actions. Okay. So, all right. If you flip open to your book, oops, get my book. We're going to go over the law of the lid first. It's chapter 1. Leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. And I would say all of us want to be effective in the stewardship that God's given us, right? And so they started out with an example of the McDonald's, who were entrepreneurs, but they didn't necessarily have influence. They didn't necessarily have a big enough vision in order to create what the next guy did, and basically creating like a worldwide McDonald's brand name and company, right? So it's super duper interesting. And if you flip over to page 5, he says, I believe that success is within the reach of just about everyone, but I also believe that personal success without leadership ability brings only limited effectiveness. Without leadership ability, a person's impact is only a fraction of what it could be with good leadership. The higher you want to climb, the more you need leadership. The greater the impact that you want to make, the greater your influence needs to be. And I wrote next to that, add value. Okay, so if you look on the next page, it has these graphs, okay? And there's success without leadership, and that's basically like a flat line. Like there's still success, but it's very small compared to that success with leadership graph. So that's on pages 6 and 7. And so if we translate this into Plexus lingo, this first picture would be strong recruitment, but not duplication and not raising up leaders. It would be kind of a direct sales mindset where you're just kind of on that hamster wheel of signing level 1, signing level 1, signing level 1s. And when you're going silver and senior silver, it's a lot of that, right? But as we grow from senior silver to gold, we want to be also starting to work on that duplication. And so I always encourage people, work on the 10% rule. By the time you go senior silver, try to have a couple people in the wings that are starting to share. And so that means that we have to be starting to have those conversations of, hey, who do you know that would do this with you? And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. And if they're like, and then you just go from there. If they're willing to make a post or they're willing to send a few text messages. A lot of us often will write the post for them, write the text messages for them, and then they literally don't have to think about it. It's just copy, paste, send. And it's super simple. We're kind of like recruiting through them. But sometimes to get that first duplication piece rolling, we walk in baby step with people, okay? And then by the time you're gold, you have about 20 people. So you want a 10% percentage. You want to be having, 2 to 4 silvers, or at least some plus ones, right? It can look a little bit different. Sometimes you have 5 people that have added 1 and 1 person that's gone silver, okay? And then by the time you go senior gold, you definitely want to be really working on that duplication piece. And by the time you go ruby, you want to have silvers, senior silvers, and some gold legs, separate legs that you're working on, okay? And so this success with leadership looks like strong recruitment plus the development of leaders, which I think goes back and begs the question of who are we recruiting? Who are we inviting to do this with us? Only sick people? What are the posts that we're making? Are they looking like posts that would attract strong leaders to us? Or are they just always product focused posts that we're making, okay, and stories or lives or whatever, okay? So this is network marketing, where you have strong recruitment plus strong leadership, and you have exponential growth, okay? And that's what we all want. That's what is required in order to go diamond. And so I would say we want to be learning as eagles, right? We all want to be better eagles. Some of us just need to take flying lessons so we can kind of untap and unlock more potential. Some of us maybe broke a wing or just came through a thunderstorm or whatever, but we're working on becoming better at flying, right? And so I would love us to just kind of, did I say this already? I want this to be conversational. And so, oh, there's a lot of people in the chat. Sorry, I didn't take a minute to look at that. Oh yeah, so if you're just hopping on, make sure you pop in the chat your strengths with the leadership assessment, and then what your weaknesses were, if you want to share. All right, I'm just reading through these really quick. Okay, good for you guys that you did complete it. You will learn so much by self-reflecting and also inviting some people to hold the mirror for you. Okay, so ask some safe people in your life to hold the leadership mirror for you and evaluate you on some of those specific things. Okay, good. Melody shares that there's a specific thought that has challenged her. You might have to pop it in the chat, Melody, for what you were, what specific thought has been challenging you, but making a detailed list of the qualities of the leaders that I'm looking for and posting with that in mind. Yes, that is really, really essential. And I think it's also interesting that some people they haven't really even thought through who they're looking for. And so if you've never made a dream team list of qualities of people, of like the type of person that you're looking for, I would challenge you, don't overthink it. Just make a little quick list on a Post-it note. Doesn't have to be long and intensive, but if you know who you're looking for, then you're less likely to be so wigged out like, oh, when I make a business post, oh, who from church is going to be annoyed, or, bugged that I made this post, right? Or those 3 people in our life that we know we're going to be annoyed by it. And so I think that will help us hone even our posts, because we have a specific audience that we're speaking to. Amy said this was across the board for all of the people who rated me, myself included. Can you unmute and explain that? Sorry.
I'm unmuted, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I put above. I think Melody and I were typing at the same time. I had several people rate me, uplines, downlines, just friends who aren't in Plexus. Kevin, I rated myself, and across the board, I had people skills was my absolute highest, and vision was my lowest, for sure.
Oh, I see that now. I think the messages were just split.
Yeah, I think we're typing.
Interesting. So it was like confirmation, like you already were self-aware and evaluated yourself correctly in light of that, but then confirmation when those mirrors, when the loving mirrors held up the same.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah. So Melody says, realizing that what I'm posting about will attract certain types of people. Yep. And then I have to be talking about the opportunity not only to find runners, but also to inspire and build confidence in the ones I have. Yes. And I think that's really key. And sometimes I'm like, oh, are people in my local circle annoyed that I keep posting about Plexus? And I'm like, well, I don't really care, because I'm getting paid really well to promote products that I love. And that's a thing. Like, I mean, these athletes and different, famous people get paid to represent a brand. Okay. Cool thing about network marketing is they pay moms and dads to inspire others to also use this brand that we love, right? And I was thinking, I was kind of creating a post in my mind today. It was like, I continue to post because I want to be a good example to the people already on my team, to show them like how to market well, right? How to stay relevant in this market. And also, it's only weird if it doesn't work. And clearly it's working to the tune of high 6 figures a year, right? And so anyways, as you guys continue to up level in all these areas of leadership and getting better at marketing and all those things, like be inspired and encouraged that it's a learning curve. I was listening to Brittany Howard, and she was teaching on the 21 laws of leadership. I think she's taken her team through this study 6 times. Isn't that cool? This is such a classic. There's always things to learn because we're listening with different ears than we did a couple of years ago. We're in a different space and season in our life and our business. And I was inspired because she said that she's like, I have this in my belly. I have it in she's like, this is so ingrained in me. She goes, I've been in this business for, I think it took her 7 years to go diamond. And she's like, my journey has not been easy or fast. And I was so inspired by her because she said, I have been a slower ranker upper because I've had to build a network and I've had to build influence. And she said it's buildable. And so I think she's very strong on the fact that leaders are created and they're developed. And there's two tokens, right? The two sides of the token, right? Where we recruit them good, right? But also on the other side of the token, we develop them, we develop ourselves, right? So if you're willing to grow and learn and you stick with it, the thing that kills us is if we quit, or when we quit, or when we start and restart all the time. But the scripture that comes to mind with that is, a just man falls 7 times, yet rises again. So if you've quit or fallen off the bandwagon 7 times, but you're still here and you're still learning and you're still committed to growth, you can continue to move forward. So I would like you guys to share in the chat, what are some clear signs of leadership strength? Or if you want to unmute really quick and share. So just popcorn around. What are some clear signs of leadership strength? I don't want to do all the talking. I think it's value adding if some other voices pop on here. If your team trusts you by following you.
I put you duplicate
Clear
and
sign.
show up consistently. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And it's funny, can I share this? The first
Yeah.
time we did this book, it put, do you know someone whose leadership lid seems unlimited? And I put Megan and Amy Booker.
So this is kind of piggybacks off of that. How can you tell if they're leaders? So you can think outside of Plexus as well. Like think through in your life, like, I don't know, people that you know in like volunteer organizations or ministries or sports, maybe in that context. How can you tell if they're leaders? Alicia says confidence and a willingness to continue to learn new things. Jeriana says the people who will follow them regardless of how crazy the idea is. Yeah, they're visionary and not afraid to follow that. They influence others and people follow them. Another one is they create positive change. Yeah, they find a way. What are some signs of leadership weakness? So Roberta says they're self-aware. Leadership weakness. You guys have anything coming up for that?
I think part of it, a big sign of that, not part of it, is the insecurity of the leader and not being able to give the spotlight to somebody else, or not being able to allow others to lead. That is a sign of insecurity of a good leader.
And then then you basically shoot yourself in the foot, because if you're not willing to share your influence, basically, then duplication is hard. It's hard for duplication to happen if we're not willing to delegate. Unwilling to train up leaders because it takes time and effort. Ooh, that's good, Alicia. Roberta says wishy-washy. So maybe that would go along with inconsistency, because I feel like if we're inconsistent, then we come off as kind of wishy-washy. selfish with time. Yes, how someone shows up in terms of how they're raising their kids definitely is a window into their leadership. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it cutting out for anybody else? No? Okay. Let me know, because sometimes our internet is wonky. I have to make sure nobody is online. Doing all the work and not letting others share the load. Very good. I had so signs of leadership weakness could be a pattern of feeling frustrated, no team culture, and stuck at a rank. So these could be signs that a leader has hit a lid. Weakness is the inability to make a decision. Yeah, indecision. When you lack vision for what is possible. Ooh, that's good. So help me answer the end of this question, or the end of the sentence. How can you help your team reach their potential? Or you can help your team reach their potential by ... How can you help your team reach their potential?
Clear steps helped me, like giving me clear things what I should do every day. Helped me.
And this would be being a lid lifter for people on our teams. And sometimes it looks super duper practical, like you're in Messenger, like Amber said, giving a new level 1, hey, here's a message to send to invite people to our little sip and share tomorrow night. Or, hey, maybe screenshotting a couple of posts for maybe like those second, third, fourth posts, like they're willing to post, but they don't know what to post, or they're maybe lacking inspiration. And so just popping in. Another one, I remember Jessica Heffley went through Carissa's Facebook friends list and screenshotted people to her and was like, hey, you should reach out to these people. And Carissa was like, no, I don't want to reach out to those people. Those are the scary ones. But interesting how the law of intuition was guiding Jessica as maybe someone with a higher leadership lid, I don't know, or at the time maybe, but her insight over even Carissa's Facebook friends list, the ones that she screenshotted were the ones that Carissa was avoiding, and Jessica was encouraging her, like pushing her a little bit to reach out to them about the business. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so we're answering the question, how do we help our team reach their potential? So Amber said by giving them clear steps. Linda said, this is really good, telling them the strengths and potential you see in them. That's huge. And it's something that I'm learning to grow in and say to people, because I find that almost equally uncomfortable as telling somebody something that is hard for me to, like something that could be confrontational or could be hard for me to share because it's kind of like constructive criticism or whatever. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, because I think sometimes the thoughts in our brain are, oh, we're going to scare them away, or oh, well, they'll think I'm crazy. But I remember Carrie telling me, she's like, oh, I knew that like when you signed up that you were going to be a diamond. I was like, what? I'm like, why did you never tell me that? She's like, well, I didn't want to freak you out and scare you off. I'm like, but you could have helped my brain space so much by just telling me what you thought. Like, what were you out? Like, it was either going to turn me off and make me quit because I thought it was weird, which that doesn't make sense. But in our minds, we build this up like, oh, I'll freak her out. Or that could have like massively pushed me farther and faster because I knew you believed that about me. I'm like, seriously? Like, what was it? Like, how? But anyways, that's like been reminders to me, not that you need to go tell everybody on your team they're going to be a diamond, but when you see something specific in somebody that's positive or that's good, or that you just sense something in them, like, or you just be honest with them and tell them what you see in them, because what are you out? You're not out anything, except those words are going to have more, like, they're going to carry, your words have weight. And I think we so little underestimate our power, the power of our words, and also the power of our influence over other people. And so anyways, just to encourage you guys to speak life into the people that you have on your teams, because you never know where that's going to go. Not in a manipulative way, but just to be honest with them and tell them what we see in them. Okay. So Linda, that was a great one. Danielle said, help your team reach their potential by building their independence, letting them fly a little bit, leading by example, sharing the load, being self-aware and not insecure. And if we are, we must deal with it. A leader shows balance between pushing and being patient with learning the speed and ability of their people. Yes, I agree. And that boils back down to being self-aware and not being overly pushy, knowing when you can push or when you can say something crazy like that, and also when to be like, the time is not quite right, or just kind of being guided by that inner intuition and tapping into that. Danielle says, Amy tells me I'll be a diamond, and it's so encouraging that she believes in me. Yes, 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 yes. Literally getting ready to text you this. Okay, good stuff. Alrighty, so who has been a good lid lifter in your life? Not just Plexus, but in your life. And what did they do, or what did they say, or how were they a good lid lifter? Does anybody have someone coming to mind where you could unmute and share who and why?
I'll give Lisa.
I think my hubby,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say my husband has been my biggest lid lifter. He was the one that told me when I hesitated to not take Plexus. He said, no, you got to do it. And then ever since then, whenever my vision gets low or I'm hesitant, he's always been my lid lifter, especially with Plexus, since that's what we're talking about. He's got the vision for me for some reason.
I was going to share that Lisa has been mine from day one, when we were sitting in the back pew of one Sunday at church, and I was griping to her in the beginning saying, I want Kevin on these products for life, and $100 a month is destroying our budget. And she's like, then open your mouth, sister, and share what you share about so loudly and proudly that, she's just like, tell the world about everything else you love, but even I feel like with our whole Plexus journey, that has kind of been us, where we'll get together and dream together, or she'll be like, we need to repent of this, and we'll, whatever, like always challenging us with all the things, and so she's definitely been mine for our Plexus journey, for sure, the whole way.
Yeah, and you can have a sideline lid lifter. It doesn't necessarily have to be your upline, or even in your downline, or someone outside of Plexus. Or yeah, it could be come from a whole different, who knows where. But to be aware of some of those people, maybe in the past, that were lid lifters. I was on a call and somebody said their softball coach was a lid lifter for them, and really it was encouraging. Yeah. Okay, so on page 10, there was a application to the law of the lid. And so did you guys all ask somebody to rate you on those 4 things? People skills, planning and strategic thinking, vision, and results. Who evaluated themselves and kind of held up the mirror? You guys have any awarenesses that popped up for you when you looked at that? Did anyone notice a gap in their own assessment and maybe the way someone else assessed you? I think sometimes we can be a little more we can be harder on ourselves than other people, than what is actually reality. You guys notice that? Sometimes when someone else evaluates you're like, what? Really? You see that in me? That's cool. If you haven't done it yet, then message a few people and ask them to do it for you. And it can be within Plexus or outside of Plexus. And it will give you some clarity and awareness that you may not have noticed before. Anybody have anything on that? When I initially started Plexus, I would say my people skills were, it wasn't that they were bad, but there was room for improvement. And I quickly noticed that if I was going to be effective in this Plexus gig, that I was going to I needed to expand my network, and that I was also going to need to learn more of the skills that my mom exemplified. We always accused her of running for office, like over the years, like we'd be on vacation or at the doctor's office, and she would like make fast friends in the elevator. I don't know how she did it. That's just like genuinely curious about people and like learning their story and just connecting with them. Like she was a good connector. And so it's interesting how then when I started Plexus, I started to realize like I am like kind of self-protective and not an expender of energy like my mom. I'd be happy to go through the grocery store, not talk to a soul, and not even talk to the checkout lady. And so I started making myself be an expender of energy, not with the intent to even sign people up for Plexus, but just to learn the skill set of better people skills and better connection with people and interaction with strangers. My uncle also is another great example. He's like the hilarious weird uncle that maybe everybody wants, but he's also a top salesman in multiple companies that he's worked with over the years. But he does goofy things like he'll engage the checkout girl and be like, "Hey, what was your win for the day?" Or I don't even know. Like he would like my twin cousins were my brother's age, and so they had more like Uncle Dwayne stories than I did. But I lived with them when I was in college, and he was always like, there was this crabby shoe guy that they would like buy shoes from, and he's like, it is going to be our goal to make this crabby shoe guy smile. So what could we do when we go in to buy shoes that would make him smile? Or he did like this challenge with his kids, and I was included because I was living with them at the time. And he's like, okay, so for the whole week, we're going to do random acts of kindness, and then at supper time, we're going to share what our random acts of kindness were. And so, I mean, it's just like the value adding things that sometimes we forget about, but that totally help us to be others focused, grow our influence at the same time, even without realizing it, and increase our people skills. So anyways, I'm just sharing that people skills were something that I needed to learn to grow in. I was extremely introverted when I first started Plexus, but I recognized that I was going to have to change that a bit. Also, I wrote next to mine, planning and strategic thinking. That was something that I need to up level and get better at. I put that I need to grow here, where I needed to just simply prioritize more thinking time. And I think, which I look at my life and I'm like, I'm in the thick of it with 7 kids right now, homeschooling, there's not a lot of thinking space, but I don't know that life is ever going to slow down. And so sometimes I think it's just the prioritization of carving out some of that white space so that I can think my thoughts, or that I can prep a little bit better for a call before I hop on or whatever. Okay. You guys having anything popping up? Okay. Some of you are hopping in the chat. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to chapter 2, which I love, the law of influence. The true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, I'm going to share something that's maybe like an insider scoop. I don't know, but I was talking to Jules today, and I was also just thinking about this. And I feel like we should address the elephant in the room so that there's an awareness, and because influence can be grown. Okay, so in network marketing, A plus B doesn't always equal C. So what is the X factor? was talking to Justin about this today. He actually told me that. He's like, A plus B in this business doesn't always equal C. And I honestly, I think the X factor may be influence. Have you guys ever experienced somebody coming onto your team that is willing to do anything? Literally, they're not afraid to post. They're not afraid to go live. They're not afraid to host a symphony, but they get 0 on any of it, on a post, on a live, on the messages they send, and they host a symphony and no one comes. Maybe that's extreme. Maybe it's an extreme example, but I think that would be a sign that someone's personal influence needs to grow. And I think back to Celeste Gwynn. And so she's like the first double diamond in plexus. She's got 20 separate jewel legs, so literally legacy business that she's built. But I remember listening to a call years and years ago, and she's like, honestly, I started Plexus 36 years ago because she had built some really, really solid friendships. And so then when Plexus came into her life, there you go. She went emerald in 3 months. She went emerald really fast, and then she went diamond fast. And then she has just legacy leaders wide. And like most of Plexus is under her. So isn't that interesting? But some people like Brittany come into Plexus, teeny tiny town, teen mom, not a lot of influence. Not that the teen moms means you don't have influence, but I'm just saying she had kind of a lot of things stacked against her. She didn't have a lot of friends. She had to grow her influence. She had to grow her network. She had to make friends and then share Plexus with them. But was it worth it? Yes. Is she a better leader because of it? Yes. And I was just telling my kids today when we were doing school, I said, some of the best teachers are ones that struggled. It's not the most talented musicians don't always make the best teachers because so much is organic to them. Like it's just so much pure natural talent that sometimes those people struggle to explain. Like, how do I make the violin sound like that? I don't know. I just do it. And that's not helpful if you're a 5-year-old trying to learn to play the violin, or if you're a 12-year-old that sits down for the very first time to learn piano and your teacher's like, well, just go figure it out. I did. Like, how unhelpful. But yet sometimes I feel like as leaders or as Plexus mentors, we can have that attitude a little bit because maybe it came a little easier for us. But I feel like people that are the best teachers are the ones that know how to break down the steps for other people. And anyways, that's kind of a rabbit trail, but getting back to the whole influence thing. Influence can be learned and it can be grown. And it's built. It's built over time. Going back to the Celeste example. I thought it was really interesting that they used Mother Teresa as an example and how she said some really, really hard things, but people didn't storm out of that talk that she was giving. She had some like really high level leaders there that had very different views on certain things. And she basically said, I'm sure I've offended everybody in the audience at this point. But she was able to say those things because of her influence. And I would say so much of that influence was built because she was in the trenches serving the least of these for decades. And so how dare anybody get up and leave her, or get up and leave that talk because of who she was, that was built over years and years and years of service. Okay, so let's see. Every time Mother Teresa spoke, people listened. Why? She was a real leader, and when the real leader speaks, people listen. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And I thought that there were some really interesting myths about leadership. Did you guys find that interesting on page 13, 14, 15? Talking about managers are not necessarily leaders. They're good at systems, but they don't necessarily have influence that would cause other people to follow them. They can maintain direction, but they can't change it. In order to move people in a new direction, you need influence. And then I thought it was also interesting about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are not necessarily influencers. They're just skilled at seeing opportunities and going after them. They have to have good people skills in order for people to follow them. Many find it necessary to partner with someone skilled at the people part of the equation. If they can't influence people, they can't lead. And I think the X factor also here, we were talking about X factors. I think a couple of the X factors would be love and serving, and it's love and serving. And then actually, this is kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but Jess and I were talking about this. People that are influential serve others. They're not afraid to expend energy. They're givers. I was just thinking through different influential people in my life and people that I see in just that are influential. They're givers of their time, their money, their energy. They're just generous people. I was like, those people are the most influential. And Justin corrected me a little bit, and he's like, they don't necessarily just expend energy. He said they're fueled by expending energy for others. I thought that was so interesting. And so if you're someone that feels scarcity in serving, you may challenge yourself on why. Why is that? Now, I know there's the whole like extrovert introvert conversation, but I think that the love of Christ compels us out of whatever our natural bent is. And I'm not saying you can't fill up to pour out more if you are more introverted or you need more quiet space and maybe just an extrovert that's always fueled by more and more and more people and all of that. But I just was inspired by that thought that influential people are fueled by expending energy. I also say they have a wide bandwidth and they can refuel fast. Okay, so getting back to the knowledge myth, the third myth, knowledge. The encouraging thing that IQ nor education necessarily equates to leadership. And as we know, network marketing is the great equalizer. So you can be a nobody in the sense of you don't have a college education, you're not a doctor, you don't have the health certification. None of that is necessary in order to be successful in network marketing. But good people skills are, if you're good at if you love people, you're willing to learn, you're willing to grow, you're willing to work on your influence, you're willing to practice growing your network, like make it fun, right? It's a fun thing to learn these skills. And then, I thought that was hilarious on the pioneer myth. Being a trendsetter is not the same as being a leader. Hilarious. Okay, and then the position myth. So I loved what he defined as as leadership. Leadership is character. And that's a big one I would say across one team is that we highly regard good character and integrity. Leadership is relationships. That is a huge piece of good leadership is relationships. I would say, knowledge also and intuition. And that's something interesting because intuition is maybe hard to define or hard to explain or teach somebody. But I would say at some level, we all have it. But some people are maybe better at tapping into that and actually trusting it. And that's something that I learned actually from Brooke Hemingway a couple of years ago, where she's like, if you have specific intuition in light of, whatever business decisions or what you need to say to somebody, she's like, lean into that and trust it. Why are you wanting an outside source to confirm to you that that's what you need to do? And so I guess I was just inspired by that statement and that thought that actually I can tap into like, what does my team need? Maybe I just need to sit in a quiet space a little longer, stay in prayer a little longer, maybe ask a little bit more specifically of what to do. And then when I get the answer, go do it. I don't need permission from anybody else. I don't need to go scour the jewel pages to see what the perfect IPA challenge is or what the next best thing is. Actually, I probably have it within me and can go do that thing, whatever it is. So I would encourage you guys to tap into that. If you're getting ideas or you have a sudden thought pop in your head, like, oh, I should host this fun event, or I need to reach out to so-and-so. And then automatically your brain starts thinking of all the reasons why not. But I would just encourage you to actually tap into that, press into that, and actually respond with urgency. And that actually brings me to a couple of key points that I wanted to make. Let me see if I can find my notes here. I was actually asking the one team, Jules, some specific questions. Oh, about how and why. Like, why did you rank up quickly? They all became Jules in like 4 years or less. And so one of them said, I implemented with urgency. So I think that law of intuition and also that urgency piece, when we have an idea, implement quickly. And I would agree with that. I think that was my story and a big piece to my success as well, early on. Another one is serving grows influence. And especially in like, there's a place for social media, totally. Like, it's a blessing, it's a gift. But sometimes your just everyday circle, if you can expand that, or if you can find a way to serve more people, that grows your influence. It grows your influence like nothing else. Okay. And then someone else said a hyper focus on developing people. When that, so hyper focus on developing people. I think that's more recently for her, knowing that she needs to do that in order to go Sapphire. But these were a couple of awarenesses that the Jules shared that I thought that was really good. Okay, and then I would love, oh, and then it talked about Abraham Lincoln in his influence, which was super interesting. So I would encourage you guys on page 21 to rate yourselves and also have somebody else rate you on a scale from 1 to 10. Character, relationships, knowledge, intuition, experience, past success, and ability. And I would say, in order to rank up, or in order to be a jewel, in order to be a diamond in Plexus, all of those areas need to be high. And so if you're recognizing there is somewhere where you need to work on, I would focus on that, because that might be the gap for you of what you need to be working on. Oh, and I loved number 3. And it kind of goes with what one of the Jules was saying, how increasing your level of service in your community can totally increase your influence. He said, find an organization for which to volunteer. Pick something you believe in, for example, a school, soup kitchen, community project, and offer your time and energy. If you believe you have leadership ability, then try leading. You will learn to lead through influence. And I would agree with that. Volunteer and service opportunities give you skill sets like no other. And it increases your leadership ability. It increases your influence. You just learn so much by doing those things. And you connect with people that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise connected with. Okay, so I'm going to challenge you guys to evaluate some qualities of the leaders you know, specifically what their character is like, what their core values are, just who they are as people, what makes them attractive, likable, memorable. I wrote those things down. I was actually thinking specifically in a specific serving opportunity that I'm part of locally, and thinking through some of the girls in that circle. And we have a team of sorts, which is so fun and interesting, and everybody has like strengths, and they recognize what they're good at, and that's kind of like what they do, like when we host things. And one of my friends was complaining. She's like, I can't get anyone to volunteer. Like, we can't do this unless we have volunteers. And my thought's always like, oh, we can totally get volunteers. We can totally get volunteers. And so my other friend, Meg, was like, oh, well, let me try. And so it was interesting. And I was just thinking through like influence and leadership and all of that. And like, why did Meg have different results? And I was just thinking and evaluating her. She is a ginormous giver. She gives of her time. She's energetic. She's so amazing. Not that my other friend isn't, but she has a spark in some ways that maybe my other friend didn't. Or she was just more creative in her utilizing her influence to get more people to volunteer. So what my friend Meg did was she called people on the phone and had them specifically and asked them specifically if they would be game for volunteering for this specific job. And so it was interesting how influence probably affected it somewhat. Also creativity and how, right? Maybe the roster on the table wasn't as compelling as a phone call and saying, hey, would you be game for, this specific job? And she got basically 100% signups because she just used her influence and got creative, and it was a smashing success. So think about the people in your life that are influential, that are leaders in the specific realms of influence that they have, okay? And study them, learn from them, because there's so much to learn from people. Okay. Okay, we kind of already chatted through that. All right, and I'm going to challenge you with, let me check the chat really fast. I love people, but I'm also self-protective. Ooh, interesting. Living a life of sacrifice for others with boundaries. That's a dance between the two. Yes. I need to build influence. Okay, recognizing that you need to build that. The thought is encouraging to me. So Linda, what thought is encouraging to you? Oops, there you are. You can unmute.
I think when you were talking about earlier, just that we don't have to have all those qualities and influence, that we can grow that and become the leader that we want to be. It's not either you have it or you don't have it. You can develop it and grow it. It's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that should be encouraging to everybody that's on this call, is that it's a learnable skill, and we can, even if you are already somewhat influenced, I would say everybody at some level has influence. Everybody that's on this call has influence at some level, but we can get better at it. We can increase our influence, and it's learnable. And even listen to Brittany share out of her experience, like she basically didn't have much influence, but she grew it, and it took her a bit longer, but she didn't quit, and she was committed to the process. Oh, I probably shouldn't have used names. Oops. You all of you don't live in my area except for Laura. She knows exactly who I'm talking about. But it's interesting. Think through people in your circle or in your life that have influence or that have leadership skills. Like, what makes them so attractive or such a leader in that specific area of their life? Okay, so I want to encourage you guys that you can show leadership by getting serious about your rank up. Being motivated versus complacent. There's a difference. And motivation, I know it comes and goes, it waxes and wanes, but it's created by our thoughts. It goes back to all that thought work that we've been chatting about. What are we thinking? Because that's going to be fuel for the motivation versus complacency or just like, wah, 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 right? So get energetic about your next rank up, okay? And show people that you're headed to diamond by ranking up. Y'all can do it. Everybody that's on this call has ranked up at least, let me look, at least twice or three times. So if you've done it twice or three times, you can do it another twice or three times. And you can help other people do what you did, okay, by inspiring them to take action. So I think the biggest thing is that we are hungry to learn and grow, right? And that's attractive to people. It means that we're in growth mode. We don't have a fixed mindset. We have a growth mindset. So I want to challenge you guys in the chat right now to write down your name and then your next rank. Okay, Megan Goff. What am I? Re-entry Emerald Ambassador. Okay, I was listening to Brittany, and she was saying that when Fallon asked her to say Brittany Howard, Diamond Ambassador, she's like, oh, I can't do that. She's like, I can't do that yet. She goes, I have to start with just Emerald. Okay, not that it's just Emerald, but she's like, I can't even think that big yet. I have to just do Emerald right now. Okay, so but I'm going to challenge you to put your next rank in there, and I want you to practice saying it, because there is something that's set in motion when you can say something. And when you can say it, your brain starts to think it. And you're going to start to think differently because you're thinking like someone of the next rank. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, at every rank, there's leadership things to overcome. You know, the leader that you are at gold is going to look different when you're senior gold. There's a leadership lid to lift when you go from senior gold to ruby, and then from ruby to senior ruby, and then from senior ruby to emerald. And there's lessons to be learned along the way, for sure. So are you guys popping it in the chat? Is anyone struggling to put that in there? Jerriana Senior Gold, Amy Booker, let's just fly by Sapphire, fling right to Diamond. Love that. Alicia, Senior Gold. Krista, re-ranked Senior Gold and straight to Ruby. Awesome. Jerriana, re-ranked Gold. Yes. Heidi, re-ranked Gold and fly to Senior Gold. Yes. So did all of you put it in here? I don't think everybody did. Anyways, just a challenge to start to write it out so you can see it, so you can say it, and so you can think it, because that is going to help you be your own lid lifter, which is absolutely essential. All right, before we pop off, do you, Jules, have anything else that you want to add? I know we're over time a little bit, but in light of the law of the lid or the law of influence. All righty, everyone's smiling. All right, we have good thoughts that we're going to be thinking about. Hopefully you guys took notes so you can kind of be thinking over some of those hard questions, some of those laws that are maybe weaker spots for you. Asking some people in your life to hold the mirror, to be able to speak out that next rank without your brain saying, oh, no, you're not. Okay, being able to say it, speak it, and read it with confidence. Okay, so next week we are going to be doing laws 3 and 4, so law of process and the law of navigation, and we're going to be defining and learning more about what leadership looks like. All righty, this is fun, guys. So thankful for this conversation. Lisa Winters is going to be leading next week, and so please pop on live with your videos. So proud of y'all for popping on with your videos. I love to see your faces, and I loved all the conversation in the chat. This is good. All right. If you have teammates that still want to join, they can still join. We're going to keep this open because we want a lot of lids lifting in quarter 4. All right. Have a great night, guys. See ya.